a perfect time to make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. We begin our service with words from our ancient tradition. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim v'aretz al yitem labod raglecha al yanum shomrecha hinei lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha yomam hashemesh lo yakeka ve'yareach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra Yishmor ad nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzeitcha uvolecha me'ata me'ata ve'ad olam. Psalm 121. For all of us, but especially for Sam, who loved Colorado, we say, I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from Adonai, creator of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, and your guardian will not slumber. And see, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard your life, and Adonai will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. So good morning again officially. We are here to remember a tremendous man, a man who lived life so fully, a man who was intelligent and almost dangerously so, a man who was ethical, as Susie put it, to the point of squeak, a man who could be appropriately intimidating in his principled confidence and demanded the same from others. A man who was forward-thinking and a problem solver, but also a man who was tremendously caring and kind to those he loved, dependable, and had a real clarity about life and what was ultimately most important. Just a few more logistics before we move into our service this morning. Just a reminder that if you need to use the restroom in the course of the service, you can exit through our doors and go down the long hallway. There are emergency exits in our chapel space directly to the outside, over there and over there. And we are streaming the service this morning, so if there are particular moments from this service that you would like to revisit later, they will be available, and we will make sure the family has that information so that you can ask if you need it. In the Jewish tradition, we use texts and poems to connect those that we love when they pass to the eternity of our ancient faith. And it is in this way that we know and recognize that even though Sam is no longer physically with us, he will never be gone, because we will be able to hold his memory in our hearts for eternity. We read in Ecclesiastes that the eye has never had its fill of seeing. And we learn from this that young or old, those who depart this life, never see enough of the world. They never complete their task, and they never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. And so we say, "O God, be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this moment. Be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." We use throughout our tradition different teaching texts, and we learn that in Pirkei Avot, which is a text from Talmud, that the rabbis taught that there are 3 crowns of life: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But the rabbis emphasize and correct that idea that the crown of a good name excels them all. The book of Ecclesiastes then goes on to say a good name is to be treasured above precious oil, and we know that wealth and health and even life passes away, but a good name lives forever. In this view, we know that the Talmud teaches that monuments need not be erected for the righteous, because their deeds are their memorials. They will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown, for the love they have given, and for the shining examples of what they were and how they taught us all what it means to be a mensch. These texts could be speaking about Sam directly, what it means to build a good name, what it means to show other people how to be a mensch in your own life and in your own industry. We know that what he did will be remembered for so many, many years. But we also know that how he did will be remembered for so many years. And in this spirit, we turn to one of the texts that we use, the Psalm 23. When someone we love passes away, we hope and pray and imagine that they are in a better place, a more peaceful place, a place without pain and fear and stress. And we wish that so strongly for Sam. And so we use the text of Psalm 23 to imagine that he is at peace. Adonai roi lo echsar bin hodeshe yarbitzeini al mei menuchot ושובב ינחני במגלי צדק ינחני במגלי צדק למען שמו גם כי אלך בגיא צמוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפניי, לפניי, שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, אדוני רואי לא אחסר. We read together this translation. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name, and even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For you, O God, are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. We are asked and commanded when our loved one passes away to tell the story of their life. We are determined to know that we should remember someone not just for how they died, but how they lived. And so it is in that tradition that we eulogize, that we bring forward stories of who they were and the impact they had on each and every one of us. I imagine that at this moment there could be so many of us who would want to come up here and stand and give testimony to how Sam changed our lives. This morning, we are privileged to hear from 3 people who were quite close to Sam. We will begin with his younger son, Zach. And then we will hear from Donald Alperstein, representing U.S. and international fencing communities. And then we will hear from Mary Medley, past Executive Director of the Colorado Society of CPAs. Zach.
So, last couple days, I've been thinking about what to say about him, but there's just honestly so much, so I'm going to keep it short and simple. My dad was an amazing person, and admittedly, I was not the best son growing up, but he never gave up on me. He always kept pushing me to do my best and to strive in what I want to do, and it's been a very good road with him, and if it wasn't for him and the tough love, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now, and I will always remember that, and I'm so proud of him for everything he's done for everybody, and I love him very much. That's about all I can say right now.
Sam lived in many worlds. Every time I spent time with him, I learned about another part of his big world. For those of you who knew him in another context, I'm here today to tell you that he was a giant in the beautiful, athletic, romantic, and political world of sport fencing. And also that many who have made USA fencing a world power and who have made international fencing a better organization stood either on Sam's shoulders or under his wing. Sam's influence shows up in almost every aspect of the sport at home and abroad. He has been a towering presence in American and international fencing for decades. Everywhere one looks in the sport, one sees Sam's fingerprints. His contributions are so wide-ranging and of such endurance that it would be impossible for me to catalog them here, but I will mention a few. Youth fencing, in which the United States leads the world, Sam did that. Funding athletes so that they could focus on training instead of worrying about where their next meal would come from, Sam did that. When USA Fencing was insolvent and facing financial failure, who pulled it back from the brink? Sam did that. Who saw a need for a process by which referees could govern themselves and pick their leadership and then make that happen? Sam did that. Realizing that those of us who have led the organization for a long time will not be around forever, including himself, who started a leadership academy to educate our successors and make sure that the organization will be in good hands for a long time to come. Sam did that. Who knowing that the International Fencing Federation did all of its business in French, and that this foreclosed most of the world from participating in major decisions, he did two things. He taught himself French as an adult. It was not easy, but he did it. And he also persuaded the International Fencing Federation to adopt Spanish and, more importantly, English as official languages. English is now you should excuse the expression, lingua franca of the fencing world. Sam took a random list of rules that had grown up over the years in fencing, and he put them together and he made what is now called the statutes of the International Fencing Federation. I could go on, but I think you get my point. There's one other one I want to mention, which I think is Sam would be very pleased to know that his service today was led by a woman. Because Sam was a champion of the participation of females in the sport of fencing, and he started at a time when that was not a well-held or commonly held belief. Sam didn't do all these things by himself, but without him, none of them would have happened. He did these and myriad other things while serving as USA Fencing's president and treasurer and on countless committees. In the International Fencing Federation, his positions included the Executive Committee, the Promotion, Communication, and Publication Committee, and he chaired its legal commission for an astonishing 18 years. To him, that organization owes not only its multilingualism and its bylaws, but also its disciplinary system, its safeguarding rules, and the guaranteed participation of women. He organized 2 world championships and worked dozens, maybe hundreds, of international competitions in multiple capacities, from referee to chair of the Olympic Competition Committee. It's been perceptively observed that the further one stands from a problem, the easier the solution appears. Sam was never one to stand back and offer easy answers in difficult situations. Sometimes along the way, he ruffled feathers, but he dug in, he informed himself, he analyzed the angles, and he proposed solutions that usually prevailed and that always proved effective. Whether his ideas were embraced or not, the intellect and dedication he brought to issues cannot be denied. USA Fencing and the International Fencing Federation both recognize Sam by including him in the pantheons of their halls of fame. For his prodigious contributions, the International Fencing Federation also gave him the highest recognition by making him what they call a member of honor. The other day, Susie, Sam's devoted wife, said to me, "I knew I married a rock star. I just didn't know the rest of the world knew it too." Susie, I can assure you we knew. The Jewish psychiatrist and philosopher Irvin Yalom once said, "I will be truly dead when I exist in no one's memory." USA Fencing is determined not to let that happen for Sam. Every year, the USA Fencing Referees Commission, which Sam founded, presents a Distinguished Service Award to an individual who has made a notable contribution to its work or to the referee cadre itself. Not surprisingly, that award was given to Sam many years ago. But now I have been asked to announce today that the Referees Commission has renamed its highest honor, the Samuel D. Cheris Award for Distinguished Service. It will be bestowed and announced every year at USA Fencing's annual award gala, so that Sam's name and memory will live on. Thank you.
Good morning. I am, as Cantor you said, Mary Medley, and I am honored to speak with you. As I said to Susie when she asked me, I've done this more than a few times. And there's always a moment. You never know when it's going to come. You probably have already experienced that yourselves when you heard the news. But I offer something for you to think about as I share with you some thoughts. I found it especially rich and perfect that Sam moved on in the midst of Hanukkah, the season of light, as well as, in my tradition, the season of Advent, light and dark existing together. I prefer to think of Sam as the light. So I've taken a completely different approach. I appreciate your patience with the Gentile standing before you. Walking with Sam, a love letter of sorts. Sam, here I am, having searched for the words to honor you late into the night when most people would have long before closed up the laptop and hoped for divine inspiration or prophetic dream, perhaps. I've consulted Susie about what to wear, and we agreed your favorite Turkish colors would amuse you. I called on the Google for help, of course, brushing up on what non-Jews need to know and wear and not do at a Jewish funeral. I reviewed the basics of sitting Shiva. I reached out to my childhood friend who converted to Judaism as an adult and asked her for guidance. I landed right here, and I hope you approve. We go back a long way, you and I. Our journey together, our walks, as I like to think of them, began in 1974, the year I took my first job at the Colorado Society of CPAs, and you became the Society's General Counsel. Then I answered the telephone as the receptionist, and you answered the legal questions, helped solve the problems, and did it all in your pragmatic, straightforward, balanced, and unswervingly ethical style. 20 years later, you moved on from Hall & Evans, and I had 2 years under my belt as the organization's executive director. We restructured the volunteer leadership, and you became the first non-CPA community member of our board of directors, followed by service as special advisor to the board, a position we created for you because we really didn't want you to leave. And you continue to offer your counsel even into this year. We took our first actual walk together when you invited me to the International Golf Tournament. Some of you are old enough to remember that actually existed here in Colorado at Castle Pines. Now I can admit to you, I was a little nervous. I knew what to wear, comfortable shoes and a hat. I depended, as always, on your wise counsel for everything else that day. Over the next 3 decades, you walked me through thorny technical issues, philosophically intriguing questions of the CPA profession, minor and wholesale bylaws revisions, and a myriad of other projects. In these past few months, you were still lending your perspective on educational requirements to become a Colorado CPA. That phrase, when so-and-so talks, people listen, Sam did that. You inspired us, and you employed your undergraduate accounting degree routinely. I wonder even now, frankly, why you didn't sit for the CPA exam. We know you would have passed all parts on the first try. Lately, we visited together at your lovely Aurora home, nourished by those signature goodies Susie always has at hand. And I understand so much more today. We walked your neighborhood in the warm Colorado sunshine and pondered the great mysteries of other people's lawn decorations. There is a limit in their homeowners association, no more than 18, as I understand it. On November 29, we took our last stroll. You set the pace, deliberate, albeit haltingly, and you told me you were in the wild blue yonder. Words didn't fit together quite the same there, and talking was mostly one way. I proposed a shorter route, yet you persevered as the breeze became just a little cool and crisp. Hanukkah was coming, and so was your family from across the country. 2 weeks later, you were at Denver Hospice, and our walk was virtual as I sat in your room talking with Susie and sharing stories of your life with her and my experiences with you. I kissed you on your smooth, warm forehead and told you I love you. You were gone later that night. My heart was torn when Susie texted me early the next morning. I called immediately, of course, and we talked about letting your CPA colleagues know. Then Susie asked me what she called the hard question: would I speak today? Of course, I said, because, after all, you invited me to stand before a microphone and talk about Sam. I'm not sure if you've been to many Jewish funerals, she told me, but humor is okay. People are allowed to laugh, and I thought, not only have I been to a few, but I've laughed at every one of them. And I hope today is the same. Now in this moment, I see your smile again when Susie asked me how I liked your new haircut. You'd lost all of it since my last visit, and you rubbed his head, shining it one more time. I remember the twinkle in your eye each time I would ask if you were huggable when it was time for me to leave. And I recall the genuine surprise in your voice when I told you that the CPA Society was recognizing you with another Distinguished Service Award on behalf of your CPA community. I shall forever cherish watching you, Eric, and Chris, your college buddies, reminisce about your hijinks while at Stanford. Yes, you boys were boys back then. Ask them about helping Eric get out the window. My friend, in responding to my call for help for today, wrote this: as a faithful Jew, your friend would have known these words by heart and would have strived to live by them. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. You lived this, Sam, whether teaching those around you, participating in a meeting, or walking in your beloved mountains. We all have been changed for good because you lived these words. Thank you for our walks. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for never giving up on those you love. I know, though I can't walk with you in the same way now, we'll continue our walks always, just in a different way. L'chaim, Sam, au revoir, and amen. P.S. Susie says the last, and I'm guessing the best, gift you ever gave her is a wide group of people, including all of you, here to support her. Know we're doing so with all our hearts, with all our souls, and with all our might.
Our Bible very famously teaches that to everything there is a season and a time and a purpose under heaven. But the poet writes that a man doesn't have time in his life to have time for everything. He doesn't have seasons enough to have a season for every purpose. No, Ecclesiastes was a little bit wrong about that. A man needs to love and to hate at the same moment, to laugh and cry with the same eyes, with the same hands to throw stones and to gather them, to make love in war and war in love, and to hate and forgive and remember and forget, to arrange and confuse, to eat and to digest what history takes years and years to do. A man doesn't have all the time. When he loses, he seeks, and when he finds, he forgets, and when he forgets, he loves. When he loves, he begins to forget. And his soul is seasoned. His soul is very professional. Only his body remains forever an amateur. It tries and it misses, it gets muddled, it doesn't learn a thing, blind in its pleasures and its pains. A man will pass as figs do in autumn, shriveled yet so full and sweet. The leaves growing dry on the ground, the bare branches pointing to the place where there is time for everything. How do we even begin to summarize a man like Sam, who reached out into this world and changed it according to his vision, who bent the world this way and that way to make it better and stronger and more lasting, so far past this premature passing? It's easy just to talk about his drive and his deeds, but those of you who knew him know that he was so much more than any of that and all of that. He inspired such tremendous loyalty from his friends, all of you. Throughout his life and down to these very last years when he needed it so badly. And Susie shared with me the other day about the cadre of Sam Walkers that existed in the last few weeks. What an amazing testament to the power of how someone else, how Sam walked other people through their lives so that you wanted to return the favor at the end when he needed it the most. He loved his Yiddishkeit, his Jewishness, especially his casual Yiddish. I think probably some of you know more Yiddish than you ever imagined you would because of the way Sam would drop it in occasionally to his conversation. He had great nostalgia and comfort for the traditions that he remembered the most from his childhood. He treasured the escape of Jewish music here at Temple. He loved Shabbat Unplugged and the way that he could relax a busy mind. He could put away the solving and the wrestling for just a little bit, just a few hours at a time, and lose himself in the music and the voices lifted in prayer. He loved traveling and cooking and eating and cooking and more eating of all the different places that he visited. And we know amidst all of this life and positivity that he was not perfect. And he would say that also. He had his share of hardships, starting from a very early age, losing a father young in life, growing up very poor, imprinting that upon himself, so much so that free food days at Costco were still a very big deal for Sam. But he carried that with him. And that has an effect on someone throughout the rest of their life and drives them differently. And we know that throughout his years, there were failures and rebounds, both professionally and personally. And we also know that later in his life, he found ultimate connection and love. And Susie, the care that you have given him throughout the years that you were together is remarkable and commendable and very holy. He had this second life. And in a way, I think that made him wish that so much more that he could stay for a third chapter. From what you have all shared this morning, it feels like in whatever industry Sam put himself, he became the rabbi of that industry. He absorbed and he analyzed and he tweaked and he taught and he shepherded. There is a great story, one of my favorite stories, about our ultimate rabbi, Moses. Moses the teacher, Moses the leader. And at the very end of Moses' life, according to the tradition, Moses climbed to the top of the mountain, of Mount Nebo, and he looked out at the land of Israel, the land that he would never get to enter. And God was standing right next to him. And God knew the pain that Moses felt at that moment. And the two of them stood for a while, and then softly and gently, God said to Moses, "It is time, Moses. Your work is done." But Moses, not quite ready, turned to God and said, "I am not ready to go yet. I must stay. I understand that I cannot lead my people into the promised land, but let me go with them. There must be another way. I do not need to go as Moses, their leader. Turn me into a milk cow, and I will walk alongside your children. I will provide them with milk, and I will walk with them into the promised land." But God said, "Moses, your time has come." And then Moses said, "If I can't walk with them, make me into a bird, that I can soar above and watch them as they enter into the promised land." But God said, "Moses, your time has come." And then Moses said, "Let me be a tree on the banks of the Jordan River, that your children might pause for a moment before they cross. Let them be refreshed by my shade and delight in my beauty." And then the story goes, God took Moses gently by the hand and said, "Come, my child, your work is done. It is time to let go. It's time to come home. You can rest now. You have changed the world." And at that moment, the story concludes, Moses saw the truth in God's words, and he went with God in peace. We hope so ardently that Sam knew the truth of those words and that story, and that at that last moment, he saw the truth of all that he had done, even as the end was not the way he wished it to be. And so we know that even though the end was hard, that the desire to keep going was so pure. To see the rest of the story for just a little bit longer. But we continue to hope and pray that Sam is now at peace. Real, true, holy peace. Of body, of mind, and of spirit. May his soul, through us, always know the difference that he made in this world. And let us all say, Amen. With that in our hearts and in our minds, we rise as we are able for the memorial prayer. Shochen Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kedoshim Odorim Kezoharakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Shmuel David Ben Yosef Chaim HaKohen Shalach Leolamo Barachamim Yostireu Besetu Kenafav Leolamim Beitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato Adonai Unachalato Ve'yanuach B'shalom Al Mishkavo Ve'nomar Amen. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May our beloved Sam's memory be for us a blessing. And may we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds, that his memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. O God, who is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end, may you make Sam's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share will never be severed in sorrow. May he rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. The family has asked me to share with you that following this service, we will adjourn to Emmanuel Cemetery, and Maggie will share some details of that in just a moment. There will be a Shiva service, a memorial service this afternoon from 4 to 6 p.m. at Sam and Susie's home, 11385 East Alabama Circle, with a Shiva Minyan at 5 p.m. We take with us this final meditation on the meaning of Sam's life. When dying is over, a different kind of memory takes over. Not the memory that is obituary, not the memory that records the past indiscriminately, but an active memory that sifts through the ashes of the past to retrieve isolated moments, and that gives heart to the future. That memory is an act of resurrection. It raises up from oblivious the glories of forgotten years, even the memories of failure, the recollections of frustration and regret are precious. Broken memories are like the holy tablets that Moses shattered and placed lovingly in the ark of remembrance. Memories are saved, those immaterial disembodied ghosts that endure. What is life after death? Pointers, ensigns, marking places that raise us up to life and give us a changed heart. Perhaps a life lived differently, better, wiser, stronger than before. What is left after death? The life of the survivor. And together we say, Amen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This does conclude our service here at Temple Emmanuel. We are about to go to Emmanuel Cemetery. In just a moment, I'm going to ask the pallbearers to come up front. And the way it's going to work, we do not have an escort or procession. So that means we have to obey all traffic laws, but please, get back to your cars as soon as you can, and then we'll meet with the family and cantor at Emmanuel Cemetery. If I can have pallbearers come up, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take Sam out of the chapel and into the coach. We'll have the family follow, and then everyone else will follow once the family is out. Does that everything make sense? Okay, perfect. Pallbearers, if you'll come up for me.